In today's episode, we have James Donovan, who helped his client increase revenue by $300,000 in just 8 months. And we're going to dive deep in how to book more calls, how to increase show rate, and close more clients. So stick around. If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, James. We're excited to have you with us today, and we're going to dive deep into all the nuts and bolts of the strategies and what really works well. But before we get into all that, let's give a little bit of background for the audience so they kind of know more about you and where this is all coming from.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me. So, quick background. We primarily help accounting firms, fractional CFOs, tax planners get more qualified sales calls on their calendar so they can do what they do best. And we bring those opportunities to their front door.
So how long have you been in this, in like online marketing and sales and in this space in general?
Well, I started this company, like I said, just over 5.5 years ago, or just over 5 years ago. Prior to that, I was selling ad space for like 1.5 years. Before that, I was doing a lot of cold calling and selling TV segments for a production company in Australia when I was backpacking through there. So I've been in the online digital marketing space for probably close to like 8 years now.
So online sales, high ticket, definitely requires sales calls. And while that's awesome, and we do it all the time in our business, we teach our clients how to, there comes challenges with that. Number one, making sure that they're really ready for that call. They've consumed all the information. They're warmed up and ready for that conversation. They actually show up and then actually being able to get them across the finish line. So what's the tricks? What are the tips? How do we actually increase all that stuff to increase revenue significantly?
Yeah, so there's a lot to it. If you think about the top of the funnel, we generate a lot of opportunities through LinkedIn and paid ads on Facebook. And every single person that we bring through as a lead, we make sure they're getting nurtured with valuable emails. So regardless if they book a call or not, they're constantly going to get value from us through email. We're going to connect with them on LinkedIn, where we're continuing to post very similar content. So wherever they're going to be consuming our content. We're always leading with value, either for ourselves or for our clients, so that even if they're not a yes today, they're seeing how much value is getting put out there, to the point where it's, if there's that much value for free, what does their paid stuff look like?
So that initial ad that they're getting targeted with on Facebook, what is that for? Is that just content? Is that an engagement ad? Is it maybe a video views ad? Or is it for like an opt-in for a free PDF? Or is it an opt-in for like a VSL or to book a call? What are you running that initial ad for?
Yeah, for our agency, a lot of it is booking a call to learn about the strategies to grow your accounting firm.
So after they opt in, not everybody books a call. And so that's where you are still emailing them. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So not everyone's going to opt in. We have a very high opt-in rate on the agency side for our own sales calls. A lot of that's done from automated SMS and email to go out, but crafting it in a way that it looks organic. And then afterwards, having someone on your team, on your LinkedIn account, go and connect with that individual. So trying to find them, look up where their area code is from their phone number, and take your best educated guess at making sure that is the right person, adding them on Facebook. So it's a slow drip, and then just, over time, they're going to see your content everywhere. Whether they book a call right away or they don't, they're going to see your stuff, on multiple platforms.
So the initial ad or the initial opt-in is that to watch a video, and then after the video they're booking a call, or how does that work? How are you getting their information without them booking a call?
Yeah, straight from a lead form. So right on Facebook, lead form, opt in. On the back of that lead form, next step, schedule a call to speak with a member of our team for XYZ. If they don't schedule a call, that's where we have an appointment setter reach out to them, putting them through a nurture sequence. We have the SMS, the emails going out. Then we're connecting them on LinkedIn, connecting them on Facebook, so that we're in their ecosystem.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's smart, because I know a lot of people have tried to run those ads, especially in the coaches, course creator space. And where people struggle is that usually they're paying a lot of money to get to that book call. And then the people that opt in but don't book a call, a lot of times they don't do anything with that. And so I like that you're actually doing something with the people who opt in but then don't book a call, because those are, I mean, they showed some intent there, right? And the fact that they opted in shows that there might be something there, but there's probably just a little bit more convincing that needs to be done in order to get them to a point where they are ready to book a call. So I like that you're doing that, because you don't want to waste those leads, right? Because now they're a lead in your system.
Yeah, absolutely. You've already paid for them, so you might as well continue to market and get in front of that individual. The worst thing they're going to do is say no. You're no further behind than where you're currently at if you haven't sent them another message.
And so when they're booking a call, do they go straight to just a calendar link where they can book a call, or do you have them go through an application process?
We send everyone to a calendar form. On the calendar, on the back end, there's questions that need to get answered. So standard stuff, name, phone number, email, but then adding in usually 3 to 4 qualification questions. So we want to reconfirm, are they the owner or a decision maker? Sometimes we're asking for revenue, but depending on who you're working with, that number, it could work, it could not. If they're just getting started, maybe they have a pile of cash saved up in the business, or they're coming from somewhere else. But on the side where we're helping our clients with this, a big thing we're asking is, so as an accounting firm who's trying to bring on new accounting business, are you currently happy, or are you happy with the current accounting support? Yes or no? What's the current structure you have in your business right now? I have a CPA, but it's basic and I need a lot more support, or I have really complex systems right now, but I need more of a fractional CFO. Giving them a range, so you're getting a little bit more gauge of where that individual is coming from. And then we usually give a drop-down list of services. So I need the most help with bookkeeping, payroll, monthly accounting, fractional CFO, something else. And then normally at the bottom of that, because we find it works well for our accounting clients, we'd ask approximately what's your firm's annual revenue to date. And that helps our clients gauge what services they'll fall under best. Are they large enough that they want to work with them? Can they offer them their fractional CFO services? Would they be a better tax planning client? So they know all this before they carve out that 30 minutes on their calendar.
I want to go back to something that you mentioned a little bit earlier, and that's your reminder messages, your text messages, emails, whatnot, are written in a way that doesn't seem automated. Can you give some examples and what that really looks like for people? Because I think some folks have heard that, but they might not know how to actually do it for their businesses.
Yeah, for sure. So I think a big part of it is just try to take the business marketer's hat off for a second as you're typing this out, and just think how you text friends or family members. Most of the time, in the same as if you're sending messages on Facebook, wherever it is, you're probably saying, "Hey, Todd, send." And then a few seconds later, there's another chunk of the message. You might hit send again, and then you have that last piece. So a lot of the times that we do when people are opting in, "Hey, Bob, it's James here. Saw you just clicked on an ad on Facebook." And then there's a delay for maybe, 3 or 4 seconds. And then the next piece, "If you think it makes sense, let's hop on a call so we could talk about X, Y, and Z. Here's my calendar." So instead of it all being in one shot that might look a lot more automated, just break up the messages. Keep them short, but break them up.
Do you ever do typos or things in lowercase or anything to make it actually look like texting?
I think we've probably done it in the past. We're not doing it now. I think there's a place for it because it does catch people. It catches their attention, and it's a pattern interrupt. I recently had a message from someone on LinkedIn, and that's something else I'll look for. If something catches my attention, especially as a marketer, I need, like, if I'm opening up the email or I open up their message, I'm like, you know what? You got me. You got me to open it up. Like, it's probably not anything I'm remotely interested in, but you got me to open it. So like, what can I take from this? And somebody was leading with the custom values for like, hey, first name. And then it was like dot, 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 just kidding. And then it actually had the custom value for my name. It's like, hey, just kidding, James, blah. And then when I was like, you know what? That's good. That, it's a pattern interrupt.
I like that. I like that idea. I know that sometimes we'll use lowercase and, we'll skip some of the punctuation. I don't know that I like taking it too far as like, if we were going to say like RUARE space YOU and then replace that with an R and a U. I don't know that I like doing that because I think that just looks a little bit too unprofessional. And especially when we're looking for people who want to be high ticket clients, I feel that they would probably think that that's not somebody that they're going to want to work with if that's how we're texting them. But I could see, some of these other things working well to make it look more authentic. Now, I have a question about the questionnaire that you have after they book the calendar link, and then they have a questionnaire to fill out. Do you ask any questions about timing, like when are you looking to implement the solution or something like? Do you have anything like that on your application form?
Not on ours for the agency. We do have for a couple clients. That's important to them. I personally think that you can leave that to when you speak to the individual, because you can get a lot more context and you can dig deeper on why that time frame is important. I think it's a tricky thing. It's not tricky, but it might not be as organic if you get on the call and then you're just like, oh, so I see you put on the form here, you're looking for something right away. Like, that kind of triggers sales versus if it just comes up in conversation, like, hey, so look, what was the reason you wanted to get on this call today? What do you need to happen by the end of, like, what needs to happen by the end of this call? And like, well, I need a new system in place. We can't generate leads, whatever it is. Okay. Do you guys have a timeline on when you're looking for that to happen? And they might mention, within the next 6 months or yesterday. Well, why yesterday? Why is that date important? It'd come up a lot more organic, in my opinion, than trying to feed that into the conversation if you previously have it. It can work, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, I know that we'll often ask that on our application form, is like, if we had a solution that could help you do X, Y, and Z, how soon would you be willing to implement or ready to implement or something like that? And I know that a lot of times, if they don't say immediately or, within the next month, if they say something like in the next 6 months, or I'm not sure, it could be a while. If they answer something that's maybe far out in advance, I know that a lot of times we'll look at that and we'll say, okay, we probably don't want to have a discussion right now. Let's maybe just schedule a follow-up and see if they're ready for a call later on. When we schedule time on our calendar for a sales call, we don't want people jumping on there who ultimately are going to say, yeah, sounds great. Follow back up with me in 6 months and maybe then. But I know that a lot of times people will say that, but they're not necessarily being truthful, because if they find something that they like, they're ready to pull the trigger, even though they said, yeah, 6 months from now. So I could see it working both ways.
Yeah, I think for us, we have 2 calls. We have a discovery call with the setter and then a sales call. And so the setter is kind of warned by the application answer that they might need to dig around a little deeper around timing in case the timing isn't right to be able to set them to an actual sales call.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's 2 sides to every coin, right? And if the value is presented and you dig deep enough into the pain on why someone even scheduled a call in the first place, most people aren't out there to waste their time. So by them giving that intent to even schedule the call, they are interested to some degree. And then it's your job as the sales rep, it's your job as the owner to uncover those pain points and see if it's a good fit. And if it's a good fit, there really shouldn't be anything holding them back from, here's the pain I have, here's the solution. Why are we going to solve this in 6 months? Like, let's do this today if it actually is that painful. It's a good question, I think, but I would prefer to try to uncover more of that and dig deeper on the call with someone to really understand why is 6 months down the road. What's important with that time frame?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, there's two sides to that coin. Now, when they do book a call, how do you make sure that they fill out that application form? Are there people that don't fill out the application form, or what do you do if they don't fill that out?
So yeah, so that's the difference from when a lead opts in, but then they don't book the call. That's where we have a setter reaching out to all of those leads who haven't booked. And we also have automated SMS and email. We're adding them on LinkedIn. We're adding them on Facebook. So they're consuming our content in a ton of different platforms. Someone still may never schedule a call. That's fine. But we're going to put them in a long-term nurture sequence. So they might even get an email a week. They might get an email every quarter. But we're going to constantly be in front of them.
So right now the process is they book a time on your calendar and then they fill out the application form, or is the application form part of the calendar?
Application's part of the calendar booking. So we have it set up so the calendar goes out, they choose a date and time, then the next page, because we're using Go High Level, so the way we've set it up is then the next page, name, phone number, email, we ask our questions, they're all required, and then they press submit.
Have you ever tested it out where they have to fill out the application first, and then the next page is the actual calendar?
I haven't. I don't know. There's probably a way. I don't know what that would look like as far as like the abandoned cart. If someone filled out the questions and then I would guess if someone would go as far as to fill out the questions, they would book the time. So it might even be more important to look at, I guess, how we're currently doing it. They choose a time and then there's questions in the abandoned cart. I don't know what that metric would look like or how you would track that.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it's one of those things where when you're first putting together your funnel, I think a lot of people don't think about how they're going to do this. But I know, like we do it where there's an application first, and then after they fill out the application and submit, then they're taken to a calendar page. Then there's like what you're doing, where there's just a calendar page, and then as they're confirming the calendar appointment, they have to fill out these questions. And then I've also seen it where people just book a time on the calendar with their name, email, and phone number. And then after that, they have to fill out all the questionnaire. And then if they don't fill out the questionnaire, they have people who are following up, or they got, a sequence that tries to get them to fill it out. And yeah, I think different people do it different ways for different reasons. So, okay, so we got that. Now, how do you make sure that people actually show up to the call? Because I know that there's a lot of people, there's a huge pain point where people book calls, right? And maybe they're running ads or whatever else it is, and they're able to book calls, but then they've got this abysmally low show rate on the actual call. What are you doing to get people to show up to the call?
Yeah, it's a great question. So similar to what we were talking about earlier, a nurture sequence that is going to look organic, and you want to be selling the call, selling a reason for people to show up. A lot of stuff that we do to have a really high show up rate for the agency is sending case studies, testimonials. Hey Todd, check out this video. This is what we did for client A last week. Can't wait to do something similar or better for you. Asking them different questions in those automated messages that are going out. Hey Todd, we're set to speak in 24 hours. I'm curious, what's the biggest bottleneck in your business right now? And if you have different questions, depending on which software you're using on your calendar, what the answers to some of your qualification questions are, you could use those as custom values, or you're essentially, feeding back an answer they've given you. Hey, you mentioned lead generation is the biggest bottleneck in your business. Able to elaborate on that quickly? And if you're getting engagement, there's a much more likelihood of someone showing up because they're responding to your messages leading up to that appointment. And then a big piece that we added in recently is, I think it's around 12 hours before the appointment, we have a text message that's out. Hey, Leah, just want to make sure you're still set for, 2 p.m. this afternoon. If they respond yes, we have the if and statement. Perfect. We'll see you then. If they don't respond after, say, an hour, that's notifying our setter to give them a call to reconfirm. Hey, just want to make sure you're still good for 2:00. And if they don't answer that phone call, we're still going to treat it as if they're showing up. And then we send out that text a couple minutes before. Hey, I'm logging into Zoom now. I'll see you in a sec. Even though, you could be downstairs, finishing up something before you run back up to the computer. But again, it's just all worded to come across very organic. And then just setting up your different sequences if there's positive intent on the reply or if there's negative intent.
And that's all automated. I like that. Those are I think we're probably going to implement a few of those things.
So I'm curious because the case study piece, are you sending them like a YouTube link where there's a thumbnail that comes up that makes it nice and snazzy and shows what the result is for the client? So even if they don't watch it, they're actually seeing what the result was anyway?
Yeah, that would be probably a much better way to do it. I think some of our older videos don't have the cool thumbnails on them, but even in the messages going now would be like, "Hey, Leah, check out what we did for Bob. We helped him add, 30 grand of new revenue last month. Watch here." So even if they don't watch it, trying to sell them on the reason to even click on the link, not just, "Hey, click on this link." They have no idea what it is. I want to sell them to click on the link. We're always trying to sell that next step, the next action we want them to take.
So in order for all this to happen, I assume that you're not letting people book like the same day for a call. How far out ahead do you make people book a call like that? Is it 24 hours or is it 48 hours? Like how much time do you need to get all this out before they jump on a call?
I think I have it set up like a 4-hour minimum for someone.
Oh, really? That's it.
Yep. And then, of course, if someone's only 4 hours out, they're not going to get all of the sequences leading up to the call. That's fine. They're still going to get a couple. But again, it still comes across super organic as if they're talking to me or someone else who's doing the sales call. And if they want to book within 4 hours or however close you need to prep, to me, that's a sign of higher intent. So why not get on the call right away?
And is that for a discovery call? Is it a two-part call, like a discovery call and then later a sales call? Or is that going right into the sales call?
Right into the sales call. We've had a handful of times now, someone click on our ad, book a call, and we've collected payment all within, I think, like a 2-hour window. Like they're signed up, they're a client, they're ready to go.
And how high ticket is that?
$6K.
Oh, okay.
Not bad at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So like those ones are really cool. They're exciting. It's like, wow, you just saw our ad like 2 hours ago, and now we're enrolling you as a new client. So if they're ready, they want to speak to you. I don't feel the reason or the need to hold, like, why kill that momentum and having, 24-hour, 48-hour gap. They might find someone else to speak to. If they have that much intent to move forward, they may sign up with your competitor in that window.
Okay. So now we got them onto the sales call. What are some of the things that we're doing to increase the close rate on the sales call?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really understanding where your prospect is coming from and where they want to get to and why that's important and when do they want to achieve that result. So 3 W's and why. Where are you at now? Where you want to get to? When do you want to get there? And why is it important? They're going to sell themselves to you. And then it's just your job to keep digging into those pain points. And if you truly believe you can help them, you have the solution, just reminding your prospect, hey, this is the solution. This is when you said you wanted it. This is where you're at now. This is where we want to get to. We can bridge that gap for you. Does it make sense to get started? Does it make sense to get you access to the system?
Yeah. And I mean, that seems like a very simple answer, but based on everything else that you did before they jumped on the call, I would assume that the people who are jumping on the call at that point, they've already been pre-sold, right?
A lot of times, yes. And that's where, closing on the first call, closing within 2 hours of them clicking on your ad, all of that stuff helps because they've seen your content everywhere. They've already seen all the talking head videos. They've seen the testimonials. They've been on your site. Now they just need to speak to a real person to make sure, okay, is this what it looks like? Those are ideal scenarios. You have someone who's, ready to buy, they have a pain, you can help them. Oftentimes, yeah, you may have to have another call with the individual, but that's why it's so important to connect on multiple platforms so they can see your organic content. They continue to get, nurture sequences that are going out. For a long time, I tried to automate a follow-up sales call sequence, but it didn't come across organic because there's so many different things that could happen in a conversation. And to try to automate that in a follow-up piece with a proposal or with an agreement, it doesn't work. But if they just continue to get value everywhere, and then you just set that reminder to follow up with the individual, or you had next steps scheduled on the call, that has a much higher conversion.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next, is that for anybody who doesn't join right there on the sales call, do you do anything afterwards to maybe close them later on? Is there like a set amount of time that you would schedule a follow-up with somebody or put a reminder on your calendar to follow up?
Yeah. So I always try to end the call with what are next steps? And everyone to leave it wide open and put the ball in their court, because that's giving up control and power of the conversation. So at the bare minimum, we're going to have a follow-up call scheduled, ideally within a couple days, because it's not time that people need to make a decision, it's information. And you as the owner, the creator of the product, you have all the information on it. So it's not like by waiting 2 weeks, all of a sudden they're going to have way more information. And they're not going to think about it for 2 weeks anyways. They're going to think about it for a couple of minutes if they have the time, because they're going to get busy. But yeah, having a follow-up call, absolutely next steps. If somebody's not looking to schedule a next steps or, a second call within a week, I don't think you've done a good enough job digging into the pain for them to realize that they need to make the change, because they need to feel that internally. And I try to stay away from follow-up calls, because what are we discussing? Like, everything should have already been laid out on that first call. So oftentimes if someone's like, well, I need time to think about it, or let's have a follow-up call, I know I haven't done a good enough job at delivering the message that needs to get across. And then I want to make sure before scheduling that call, I get some sort of confirmation or buy-in from the individual. Like, okay, Todd, just to make sure like we're moving forward with this, right? And then on Monday, we're just going to, dot the I's and cross the T's, because I don't want to take up more time of my calendar if that individual has no intent of moving forward. So you need to protect your own time, but yeah, have something in place, because you don't want to just be like, okay, get back to me when the time is right for you, because they won't.
So what if you run into a situation where somebody wants to get started and it's a money issue, and then you go through financing options, you go through payment plans and things like that, and it just still doesn't work out? Do you do anything with those people to follow up with them later? Or is that just a situation where you'd say, hey, get back to me when your situation changes?
Again, figuring out, what is the main objection here? Like, do they not have cash for XYZ reason? Do they have something in place where they will have that? Have they given a time frame on when they expect things to be different? And essentially, the information they give you, use that to your advantage afterwards. So if someone, hey, Todd, what would you recommend right now for next steps? They'll tell you, hey, you know what? Actually get back to me in 30 days or whatever it is. Just put them in a nurture sequence, get an email once a week, set yourself a reminder, call them. Hey, we spoke, just wanted to make sure, last time we spoke about 30 days ago, you mentioned X, Y, and Z. Does it make sense to get started now? Does it make sense to get you access now? And just, you're using the information they've already told you. So it's not like there's any tricks or persuasion. You were the one who gave me this information. I just wanted to make sure it still made sense. You said 30 days ago it would. Does it still make sense today?
And I know with a system like High Level, you could queue that up right away and schedule the text message to go out in 30 days or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I've stopped doing that for a while. I think I've just forgot. For the automated text that goes out, there has been some people, and I don't know if anyone's actually responded to them, where they're like, yeah, get back to me in like 6 months. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And then right away, I just scheduled the text to send out in like 6 months. But if you can give that person a call, it's going to break that pattern a lot more than a text message. Even though text messages are great, everyone sees them on their phone over an email. But yeah, I think the bigger the phone and call the person, it also shows a different, level of personalization.
Now, I know that a lot of our audience, when they're doing sales calls, I think when somebody says yes, they're ready to join, I know that the way a lot of people handle that is they say, okay, great. And then they get off the call, they send a link, or they send a proposal, or they send a contract, but they do it after they get off the call. And I probably know what your answer is going to be, but do you recommend doing that, or is there a better way to handle that?
I absolutely don't recommend doing that. And yes, there's a much better way to do that. Why would you get off the call when someone's saying, let's get started? I go through this with our clients all the time. It's crazy. It's like, they're ready to move forward. So take the card. Cool. What card do you want to put it on? It's like, it doesn't need to be complicated. And then just stop talking. There's no sense to be like, that sounds great, I'm going to send you an email. Like, why? They're already there. They're going to go get busy. Life's going to happen. Then you're chasing them right there on the call.
Do you take payment first and then send a contract, or is it contract first and then payment?
If some people want to see what the contract looks like, I'll share my screen and show them. But oftentimes, we've already walked through everything. They know what they're going to be receiving as far as deliverables go, because we've spent the last 30 minutes speaking about it. And then it's cool, let's get started. What's the card? And then we send them over the onboarding docs, and they can start going through that so we can get them up and running.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that is one of my pet peeves, or one of those really big pain points when I talk to someone who's new to selling high ticket and they just get off the phone and imagine that the people are going to magically sign up or do the different things on their own. So what we really teach is, or what we do ourselves and teach, like, I'm giving them the link to purchase. I don't really like to take their credit card information, but I said, okay, click on the link now that's in the Zoom chat. And while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and get you started. And while they're doing that, I'm queuing up the contract. I'm getting everything ready, pulling up the calendar so we can schedule their onboarding. I'm doing all of those little pieces. And then, it gives them, they don't feel like they're being rushed. Like I have an excuse of something that I'm doing, and it just kind of really flows nicely for them and natural. So that really works well, because we want to get them started. We want to get them access immediately.
Yeah, that's good. My counter to that, and this is off of my sales coach that I've spent a lot of time with and who now works with our clients, is, you're going off and doing more work before they've paid. And by sending them the link over, you're putting control like in their court. I get where you're coming from. But if they're ready to go, you hold that frame, you hold that power. You're the authority figure, collecting the payment and then getting that stuff set up. Because I'm sure there's probably been times you send it over and then maybe they disconnect from Zoom or they don't pay, and you started to do those things. But who knows what would have happened if you tried to just collect the card, right? And you held that authority. I get where you're coming from, but that would just be how I would approach it, right?
Yeah, and we've seen it both ways. Honestly, with the different leads behave differently. So with the leads that we're generating today, it's worked out very well. And I've been in the lead and throughout the conversation, and everything flows really nicely. But there have been times in our business where we had a different lead source, and that stuff happened a lot more. And I would definitely be taking credit.
Yeah. All of a sudden, if the power goes out, they're on Zoom, people hold them on the phone. Problem. No.
Well, one of the other reasons we do it that way, and this is just us personally, is that if and when a chargeback happens, having the transaction happen on their end with their IP address is a lot more defensible on our end to win a chargeback dispute versus if we had taken their credit card and processed it on our end. Earlier on in our business, especially when we were doing like low ticket course sales and it was high volume and things like that, we dealt with chargebacks a lot more often. Now I can't even remember the last time we had to deal with a chargeback. It hasn't really been an issue, but I know that if and when it does become an issue and we have to challenge a chargeback on a credit card, that having that information that we can just screenshot and send into the credit card company is a lot more convincing and holds a lot more weight than anything else that we can do. Because even though we have the sales call video, they don't review sales calls. Like there's no way that we can submit a sales call as evidence for a sale being legitimate versus fraudulent. So having that IP address coming from their end and it being entered on their computer, I know it is something that we use for evidence for chargebacks. But
yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really good point.
Well, James, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being with us today. If people want to check you out more, where should they head?
LinkedIn would be the best spot. Or they can reach us at 92media.com. So NINETWO media.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.